just as an example, okay, there is a cross out in the middle of the Arizona desert. Been there for centuries. Hell, maybe even have been there since the founding of this damn nation. For sure, it's been there for a long-ass time. Okay, and some atheist, pardon, I apologize, but I got to be truthful. Some atheist fucktard, because it was way out there in the desert, he had to use fucking binoculars to see the son of a bitch. But because he fucking saw it out in the desert, out way away from him, oh my gosh, it's so offensive. We got to tear it down. And you know what? The stupid ass liberals in this country actually agree with him, and they tore down something that had been there for centuries. And here's the irony of it. Pagan Indians were actually guarding the cross and trying to protect the cross. Isn't that amazing?
Okay, was this in Arizona?
I think it was Arizona, yeah.
Because Arizona is ultra conservative, so I can't imagine, it
was out in the desert.
Who stole it and why? We first learned of the theft just hours ago. The controversial Mojave Desert Cross that has honored the dead for decades is gone. The cross was sitting on a rock about 70 miles south of Las Vegas and 200 miles north and east of Los Angeles. The veterans of foreign wars first placed that cross there way back in 1934 to honor the dead from World War I. But in recent years, the cross turned controversial, with critics arguing a religious symbol didn't belong on government property. Just 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court ruled the cross should stay, but now a criminal has essentially overruled the court, tearing down the cross for reasons yet unknown. You can see only the base remains there. The national commander for the Veterans of Foreign Wars responding to the theft, saying, "This was a legal fight that a vandal just made personal to 50 million veterans, military personnel, and their families." Trace Gallagher is working this story from our West Coast studios tonight. Trace, any clues?
Well, Shep, they believe this thing was stolen sometime either Sunday night or early Monday morning. Remember, this is a big 7-foot cross made out of metal pipe filled with concrete, so it's very heavy, and the working theory is that it was more than one person. The thieves actually, they cut the bolts that attach the cross to the bedrock below. Now, remember, a judge ruled that while this controversy was making its way through the courts, that the cross would have to be covered in plywood. They got a call on Saturday. Someone said that the plywood had been torn down. And when the caretaker went out to repair the plywood yesterday, that's when he noticed, Shep, that the cross and the plywood both were gone.
So they're going to rebuild the thing?
They want to. I mean, a lot of veterans are heartsick over this thing. And in fact, a number of military groups and veterans groups have already offered time and money to get this thing rebuilt. The problem is they can't rebuild it because legally the land is not theirs. They're still fighting this thing. They know for the time being that the criminals, the crooks, have won this round. They say for now they just have to bide their time. Listen.
We're used to taking orders, so let's be patient. And let's go out there and win this case and go out there and rebuild it and rebuild it perhaps even more elegantly than it was. Simple, very simple before. Let's rebuild it in a more elegant manner.
Incidentally, the ACLU, which has been fighting against having this cross on public land, has not commented on the thieves stealing it. They only want to comment on the case itself, Shep.
They've rebuilt this cross before, haven't they, Trace?
A number of times, yeah. I mean, this thing has been there for 76 years. It was built in 1934 to commemorate the heroes of World War I. And in that time, it was always built of wood. It's fallen, it's tilted. They have rebuilt this thing. And in the 90s, they built it in metal. But those days, this wasn't a controversy. It became a controversy in the 90s when the lawsuits started flying. So now, rebuilding it is a much bigger deal than it was for the first 60 years this cross existed.
Yeah. Trace Gallagher in Los Angeles for us tonight. Trace, thanks.
Been there for centuries.
The veterans of foreign wars first placed that cross there way back in 1934 to honor the dead from World War I.
And they tore down something that had been there for centuries.
The veterans of foreign wars first placed that cross there way back in 1934 to honor the dead from World War I.
pagan Indians were actually guarding the cross and trying to protect the cross. Isn't that amazing?